how do we draw this? Really, the orchid is two Ys. One is inverted and one is vertical. So the front one, where we have the labellum and the two petals, those are basically a Y shape. But you'll notice then that the sepals in the back are an inverted Y. So you have the Y stroke at the bottom and then a single stroke at the top. So that is the best way for you to organize and draw this flower. And now we are ready to actually get some drawing done. For demonstration purposes, because it's almost impossible for me to show you my measuring along with drawing, I took some photographs of my orchid. Yours may be a different type than mine. I measured from the real flower and then scaled it so that my photographs are actually the size that the real flower is. The width of my flower face on was 3 3/4. So if I put the ruler down, that's exactly what it is. So you can see the width of my flower is 3 3/4. That is what I measured when I measured the actual flower. The height of the flower is 3 1/2. So going from the top of the flower to this bottom edge, it is in fact 3 1/2 inches. What I really want to do is draw the entire stem. Now I feel that this is very straight, but I'll show you I'm going to change the angle of this growth. This particular plant was mounted on a very straight stick, so it's standing straight up, but I don't like it like that. It's too vertical for an orchid. An orchid generally has a little bit more fluid flow to it. You need to draw for your assignment. You need to draw a front view flower and either a back view of the orchid or a profile of the orchid. So we'll get to that, but let's get this first flower set up first. So here I am. I'm going to actually draw this flower down here somewhere, accounting for the fact that I need to draw this stem in. So I'm going to draw this at 3 3/4. This is going to be the total space that this flower takes up, and 3 1/2. So the next thing I have to do is figure out where the center of this flower is, because that's the column portion of the flower, and that's really its basic center. So I'm going to measure from the top to the end of the column, which comes out to about 2 1/8 inches. So from the top of my real estate, I'm going to go 2 1/8 inch. And then I know that I have to measure in from the outer edge of the petal, and it looks like 1 3/4. So I know that this is going to be where my column is, right in here. Now once I've measured for where the column is, the next thing to do is to measure these outer points of each of the petals. If you will recall from the assignment sheet, the structure of a orchid is 2 Ys, one of which is inverted. So I started with the sepals, marked them off, and then I marked off where the end points of the petals were and where the end point of the column was, and also the width of the column. As you can see here, I marked off on the real estate the first sepal, the second sepal, and the third sepal. And then I measured for each of the petals and for the location of the bottom of the labellum based on measuring it from the bottom edge of the column. And then I measured the width of the labellum. So I have all of these marks, and so you can see here, here's my inverted Y, here is my regular Y, very wide in this case. Now when you're working with another orchid, it might change, but basically the process is the same. So now that I have this information, what I'm going to do is work within the framework, just sketching in basically where things seem to need to go just roughly, knowing that I have to put in this petal in here, I have to put this petal in here, and as long as my point areas are about where they need to be, then I should be in pretty good shape. You should be able to just sketch in. This is your first step. If you feel you want to check on something, you can always go back in and you can, measure some areas again until you get things where you think you want them to be. But as you can see here, it's looking pretty good. We don't have to be absolutely perfect. The orchid police are not going to come in and say, you didn't do this right. But if you feel this width is not wide enough, you can go back to your flower and measure and see if you're close enough. And that's the whole thing. But it's more a matter of capturing the essence of that particular flower and getting it to look the way you think it needs to look. Now I'm going to refine this a little bit more with another layer of tracing paper, and now I will start putting in the fine contours of this subject.